So you just got a brand new Sony Full Frame camera. Woo! Congrats on the upgrade, but you still have a bunch of APS-C lenses lying around. And you're wondering, should I use them? Can I use them? Or is it better to just invest in full frame glass? In today's video, we're gonna find out. What's going on, filmmaking homies? It's your boy Cody Blue, and today I want to talk about the difference between using a full frame lens on your full frame camera or using an APS-C lens on your full frame camera. Now, I've been getting a lot of people sending me messages and questions on Instagram saying, hey dude, I just picked up the A7 III and I'm gonna buy the 18-105 f4 based on your recommendation. And I'm just like, no, why would you do that? Please don't do that. Just to be clear with you guys, I recommend the 18-105 for your APS-C camera. I think if you're gonna buy a full frame camera, you should be investing in full frame lenses. That's like buying a convertible and never putting the top down. You're just limiting your own equipment, and overall you're not gonna enjoy the experience quite as much. But then I got to thinking, maybe it doesn't really matter. Maybe you can buy an APS-C lens, put it on your full frame camera, and nobody's ever gonna know the difference. So we're gonna compare and contrast the two, and to start off, I wanna talk about the photography aspect of using a full frame lens versus an APS-C. So when it comes to shooting photos on your full frame camera, I'll tell you guys just right away, straight up, I think you need to be using full frame lenses. And the reason why is because as soon as you put an APS-C lens onto your full frame camera, you instantly lose resolution and megapixels. So in the case of the A7 III, you pay $2,000 for a 24 megapixel camera, you put an APS-C lens on that camera, and now you're only able to shoot 10 megapixel photos, which is really not good at all. Almost all smartphones and action cameras and really any newer camera on the market is going to shoot more than 10 megapixels. If you take a look at the photos that I'm showing you guys right now, you'll see the difference between that 24 megapixels and the 10 megapixels. Obviously, 24 megapixels is almost twice as large, which is gonna give you a lot more room to crop in and change your composition and basically frame things how you want to frame them. Whereas the 10 megapixel, if you were to crop in, you're gonna be down to like 6 megapixels or maybe even less, depending on how much you actually want to crop. So that's probably the main reason why you need to be shooting on full frame lenses on your full frame camera. But another reason is because full frame lenses typically have better build quality and better optics. They're gonna be sharper, they're gonna have less chromatic aberration. So they're just gonna look better, and they're gonna give you that full frame look that a lot of people talk about. By shooting on full frame lenses, you actually get a shallower depth of field than you do on APS-C lenses. And that's just the nature of cropping into the sensor. 1.4 on a full frame lens is gonna have better looking bokeh and a shallower depth of field than 1.4 on an APS-C lens. So overall, if you shoot photos and you have a full frame camera or you're thinking about getting a full frame camera, I would highly recommend that you get full frame lenses. If you can't afford those full frame lenses, you're probably better off just sticking with your APS-C camera and investing your money into better glass instead. So now let's talk about what you filmmaking homies actually care about, and that's the video capabilities of full frame versus APS-C. So this is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. Now, in my personal opinion, I think you can totally get away with shooting videos on an APS-C lens on your full frame camera. Of course, I still recommend that you get a full frame lens because the build quality is better, the image quality is better, it is going to be a little bit sharper, but you do have to try really hard to notice that difference. So as you guys know, I don't really like to do scientific, like pixel peeping type videos here on the channel, but in this case, I decided to go out, I shot the same shots on my full frame 24-105 f4 as I did on the 18-105 f4 so that I could show you guys the difference. So check it out. Now, I don't know if you could even notice the difference after the YouTube compression, but to my eye, the full frame footage does look a bit sharper. The lines are sharper, there's less aliasing, and overall it does look better. But I think if you have a solid story and good composition and good shots, that nobody is really going to notice the difference. Now, I do think if you're shooting 1080p, if you really want to shoot that 120 frames per second, I think the full frame lens is a lot better. I don't know if you guys noticed that, like I said, after the compression, but to me, the 1080p does look quite a bit better on the full frame lens than it does on the APS-C lens. Another thing to keep in mind as far as video goes is that, again, just like photos, you're gonna get a shallower depth of field and better looking bokeh on your full frame lenses than you will on your APS-C lenses. So if you want your images to look as good as possible, if you wanna shoot with the shallowest depth of field, full frame lenses are gonna be the way to go in that case as well. Now, overall, I still stand by what I said at the beginning of this video. I think if you're gonna be investing in a full frame camera, you should make sure that you're gonna also be investing in full frame lenses. It just doesn't really make sense to buy a full frame camera and not invest in some good glass. At the end of the day, good glass is going to make a bigger difference than a good camera body. So if you're on the 6300 or the 6500 and you can buy a full frame camera, but you can't really buy full frame lenses, I would recommend you just stick with that APS-C camera and invest that money into better glass instead, because glass is ultimately what's going to determine a better picture versus a worse picture. Always invest in glass before you invest in a better body. Now, with that being said, you can shoot videos with APS-C lenses on your full frame camera. I don't think anybody's really going to notice the difference, but when it comes to photos, I think it's a no-brainer. You have to be shooting on full frame lenses so that you can get the full capabilities of that full frame sensor. You get the full 24 megapixels, and overall your pictures are just going to look better with a full frame lens. It doesn't make any sense to spend all this money on a larger sensor and then you're not even using the full sensor. What's the point? You might as well just keep APS-C and keep on creating. So that's it for today's video. Stay tuned for the full 24 to 105 test video. I know we haven't really put that out yet, but I wanted to get this video out for you guys. But do me a favor, like this video if you like it, subscribe if you want to see more. If you have any questions, send me a DM on Instagram and we'll catch you guys in the next one.